Hey, how's it going everyone? It is Online here. Welcome back to another video course as always. Today I really want to talk about Destruction All-Stars. This is the brand new PS5 exclusive and also free on PlayStation Plus. This game is quite unique in the fact that it's one of Sony's, few attempts at delivering a multiplayer game. One of the last few games I could think of that were like this was maybe that Predator game that came out maybe about a year ago or so. But that one didn't really seem to take off. This one does seem to have a little bit of potential. This is essentially my first impressions on the game. Originally, obviously, this was the game that was revealed alongside the PS5, one of the many, right? This was the game that no one really knew what to expect. The trailer was quite vague. We honestly didn't really have a good idea about this game until last week's State of Play. Before that, all we knew really was the price and hardly anything else. Turns out Destruction All-Stars is quite a bit of fun. Essentially what it boils down to is it is a destruction derby kind of game at its core. You have a car, there's many different types. I believe in the game there currently are 3 types of cars. There's a mini car, which is kind of like the agile. There's the sporty car, which is the fastest car in the game, but also not the hardest hitting. And then there's the bulky, like, tanker-like car where, you might not move as fast and it might be a bit delayed in terms of your inputs, but when you do hit people, you're definitely going to be on the better end of that transaction. And that's really what the core gameplay loop boils down to. There are special abilities, there are characters, but ultimately at the end of the day, you are going to be hitting other people, ramming them. That's the core gameplay loop. What makes Destruction All-Stars a little bit more unique in this aspect is the idea that you could jump out of your car at any moment. One of the things that I didn't really see coming in this game is a lot more adaptive. You see cars as weapons. You don't get kind of in love with the car that you're currently in because at any moment it could break. You have to jump out of it and look for a new car or try to jump on someone else's. That's something that I think is probably Destruction All-Stars' biggest kind of strength right now because it's something that feels very fluid and very different compared to other multiplayer games, especially racing games, right? So that's definitely, something that's pretty unique in that aspect. Currently there are 16 all-star characters, so this is a game that has, quite a bit of, characters and content right now at launch, which is nice. Alongside this, there are 4 multiplayer modes. 2 of them can only be played solo, but the other 2 are going to be the standard 8v8 modes. What I do like about Destruction All-Stars in this aspect is the fact that each mode is kind of different from each other. A lot of times in multiplayer games, you'll see different multiplayer modes and people will stick to like certain ones, right? But with Destruction All-Stars, I gotta say so far, the variety in terms of what you're playing in terms of these 4 modes is pretty nice. You got modes obviously like Mayhem, which is kind of like the standard, solo kind of free-for-all. If you're playing with the squad, most likely you're just going to be playing Carnado, which is essentially, a team-based version of Mayhem, except with the fact that, the longer that you stay in your current car, the greater risk that you're going to lose all your credits. But then, you throw in things like Stockpile, which has a bigger focus on getting out of your car, or, Gridfall, which completely changes the whole entire, objective of the game. It's pretty cool to see that, they're not looking at one type of aspect for this game. The game is definitely fun. I will say there isn't really too much depth into the gameplay loops. As I said, it boils down to just the cars that you're currently in. There are things like hero abilities, right? But ultimately, it just comes down to that core gameplay loop. The reason why I don't give too big of an emphasis right now on hero abilities is because they're kind of broken at the moment. Blue Fang's car ability currently is probably the very strongest in the game. Pretty much whenever you get hit by it, if you're essentially close to it, you're just going to get completely shredded, while other character abilities just don't seem like they have really any usefulness at all. Some ones with like radars and all that will target like random people. There are definitely better characters than other ones. I just wish there was a bit more inspiration in terms of the characters' abilities that would actually change the way you play the game, because ultimately they're just kind of like an added layer onto them, which yeah, I just really wish there would be more synergy and more kind of strategy, I guess, with these characters. The character breakers, which is kind of essentially their ultimate, right? But just, their same car ability, but just on the ground. There's not really too much use to them because obviously when you're on the ground, most likely you're going to be looking for a car, I've noticed, or looking to hop onto someone else's. That's also part and due to the fact that the, melee combat isn't exactly the most fleshed out at the moment. Essentially, there is like a really long cooldown between each punch. So essentially, you'll punch someone else, they'll punch you, and then you'll just be standing around or just moving around, but like no one can throw another punch. I get why they would do that, right? Because obviously this is a game that focuses on cars and, the derby aspect, but the fact that the melee combat exists, but it's just super clunky just doesn't feel right with me. So yeah, the game as a whole, I would say it's very fun. I could definitely see myself playing this and just putting on a podcast or putting on some music and just having some brainless fun. But there isn't too much strategy, I've noticed. Some people might say that's a good thing, people say that's a bad thing. I ultimately think games should have like a base surface understanding of how the game works, but then if you really want to get good at it, you can master it. I just don't see the potential of that in this game at the moment. That's not to say they could change anything, balancing is definitely something that they could change, and, introducing new characters that offer that kind of playstyle or, flexibility could be really cool in the future. Yeah, this being a PlayStation Plus game, obviously there are microtransactions in this game. Ultimately, they are expensive, right, given the fact that this game has a lot of skins, and a lot of the skins easily cost like $5 to $10 per, but a lot of them can be earned. Granted, you're going to have to grind for them. I guess that's just kind of like a staple in multiplayer games nowadays. I will say, like, the grinding aspect isn't too bad. Like, I'm like level 10 at the moment, and I can almost just buy like the highest, skin available. So like, if you main one character, I guess you'll be fine. But if you're looking to like get a bunch of, skins for the characters that you play as, obviously you might have to pay, I guess, or just grind it out. But ultimately, I just don't see that it's too bad at the moment. But, once again, I think the bigger issue with this game at the moment with this cosmetics is just the fact that they're not really even essentially skins. They're just kind of colors that are just changing up these characters that already look really colorful. So in that aspect, it'll be taking people like Fuego, that's like dark red, and then there'll be a skin that just makes them orange, and it's just like you're recoloring the person. So if you find that aspect enjoyable, I guess, but there's not really anything else to it besides that. There are emotes, but no one hardly really ever emotes. It's not like you're going to be really seeing anyone. You're all moving really fast. So it's not like you're going to see someone standing still. I guess unless you're playing stockpile and you're banking at like A, B, or C. Besides that, there's not really any point to it. So yeah, the cosmetics, ultimately at the moment, I don't even think it's a matter about the price. I just don't think they matter too much at all in general right now. So hopefully they could fix that. It would be cool. I've seen people, mention possibly like a battle pass, and I'm just, that's a good option, I guess. But ultimately, they just need to make them worth getting, I guess. There are challenge series, which is essentially this game's kind of campaign that teaches you more about the personality and kind of the rivalries between some of the all-star characters in this group. I've only gotten through about halfway through the first one at the moment, and it's decent, right? Like, it definitely feels a lot different than the multiplayer modes because you're doing things like time trials. Yeah, it's just kind of like standard stuff. There's only one free one at the moment. The other two currently are paid. I believe they're like 400 and 200 credits, which is like $6 total, I guess. So yeah, that's definitely another way they're monetizing this game alongside, this game's, microtransactions, which I think it's fine to monetize a game like this, obviously, considering, it's not inexpensive to make games, obviously, we know that. So they got to monetize somehow. Besides that, yeah, I'm really enjoying this game. Everyone I've been playing with has really enjoyed it so far. I think Destruction All-Stars is coming at a great time, considering the fact that, we're kind of in this lull period in the PS5's life cycle where we see a lot of games coming out, especially like around April and May, that the next few months are definitely a little bit dry if you've already finished the games that you've gotten for the system. So this is kind of like really nice addition to the lineup. The developer at Lucid Games have already said that they're going to be updating this over time with new modes and characters at least, so that's going to be really cool. Yeah, it just depends on how they view this game and how they listen to the community. There are definitely some complaints that the community as a whole has already kind of like agreed on. Like, some people believe that this game should have music in the game, which I'm not someone that especially, agrees with this complaint, because obviously I said I could just put on my own music or put on a podcast, but, the game doesn't really have any music while you're playing the game. It goes for kind of like a sports commentatorship vibe to it, I guess, where, you're competing, obviously, in this arena full of crowds cheering you on, and the announcers are kind of commentating on what you're doing. That's kind of the area, I guess, the game tries to focus on. But yeah, a music option, I guess, would be nice. Just obviously, these games live or die based on how the devs react into the community. So only time will tell, I guess. So we'll see how fast they can update things in terms of people's complaints and the needs for this game. And besides that, yeah, that has been my first impressions. I might do a review on this game going forward in maybe the next few weeks. Multiplayer games are always kind of a weird game to review because, obviously with the live service kind of nature to these games, they update over time, so the same game you're playing today won't exactly be the same game you're playing a month from now. So that's a little tricky, but yeah, I guess just what I could say for now is I'm enjoying the game. I don't see a lot of depth to it. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing, but I'm just not sure if this game is going to be living on in the years to come. Yeah, with that being said, I guess just let me know your thoughts on Destruction All-Stars in the comment section down below. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys think of it. I definitely will say I want to see PlayStation do this a lot more, go into the multiplayer aspect. They're kind of known for only doing single player, right? Even though that stereotype isn't exactly always true, you know, they do focus on those single player adventures. It's nice to get a little bit of variety, especially if you look back at the PS3 days when they had so many different IPs that did so many different things. Definitely in the PS4 generation, they seem to focus on that narrative single player trope that has ultimately been very successful for them. I hope Factions does a similar thing. Obviously, we're still waiting on that, especially if you're a subscriber to the channel. You know I've been waiting for a while for Factions 2. So I'm hoping that's another story where we maybe get that free on PS Plus, or at least if you own Part 2. I could definitely see that happening maybe when this game gets taken off, because I definitely think Factions should hopefully be coming out maybe by the summertime. Yeah, with that being said, I have been Online or Brandon. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. I haven't uploaded in a bit. Yeah, I've just been kind of focusing on other aspects of my life, but I am looking at getting back into videos on this channel. Besides that, I know many of you don't know, but I do run a podcast that I currently run on a separate channel called Critically Incorrect. Me and a few friends discuss that, and we, record obviously weekly podcasts and talk about our thoughts on there. So, if you're subscribed to the channel, you've been waiting for a video, and you happen to not know that I do run a gaming podcast, make sure to go check it out and subscribe, because I give my weekly thoughts on everything happening in the gaming industry over there. So, yeah, with that being said, I've been Online or Brandon. I'll see you in the next video, and until then, take care.